So Brad, why don't you tell us where Zara's was 10 years ago, where your mindset was, and what was going on with your business before this transition started?
Yeah, well, we've been in business for 30 years now. So at that point, we were 20 years in and had had a lot of growth, a lot of success. Financially, things were good, but we had created this monster that, was no longer any fun to be involved with. So I really was at a point of ready to get out. Just the frustrations were beyond, they outweighed the successes. And so just thought of getting out and ultimately thought, what am I going to do next? Where will I go? Will I have the same frustrations? So over the years had learned better ways of doing certain procedures. Couldn't see how we could implement them with the culture that we had. So ultimately decided that we need to overhaul our process and our culture all at the same time.
Now, to be clear, back 10 years ago, it wasn't that the business was falling apart. You weren't losing money or having issues like that. The business was still, from an outside perspective, people would have said, you're being successful still. So what were some of the more specific challenges that were really leading to those frustrations?
Well, we had all individual producers. Our technicians were all individual producers. We were trying to manage them. We dreamed of them being a team, so we were trying to manage them as such, but to no avail. The just the relationship between our team, well, I'm not going to call them a team at that point, between our employees was not good. I was constantly being the referee between relationship issues, and really most of that stemmed from poor processes, poor communication, yet we looked real pretty to the outside world.
So you were at the stage where you were frustrated and weren't having fun with work, and it wasn't functioning the way you wanted. What was the catalyst, or what was the first step in the transition process that you guys have undergone?
Well, the realization really hit when I went to Discover leadership training, and what I learned there was that the real problem was me. That I allowed this to happen. So if I wanted it to change, then I was going to have to initiate that change and help people to see what the new Zara's was going to look like. And so from that point, I decided to quit thinking of running away, and just fully commit to making Zara's what I could foresee it to be.
And what resources or what assistance did you have in figuring out what the changes were that you needed to make for this transition?
Yeah, well, definitely sought out any companies in the U.S. that that were already maybe venturing down that trail. We've been 20-year members of ACOT Selected, Axo Nobel's consulting and networking program. So a group of shops decided to, there were some classes being offered that we attended. Then there was a group of shops that decided to take, a stronger approach to it. So we began traveling the country a couple of times a year, working with this other group of shops. So we learned a lot that way, working with consultants like yourself to help us develop tools to measure some of the things that we needed to put in place. We've brought in business coaches one in particular that we've worked with now for about 8-9 years that works with us on a regular basis to help us understand our personalities, our differences, how we can coexist in the best way possible, how to communicate better, and really ultimately have worked on our the personal side of our lives as well.
As you've gone through this transition, what are some of the things that are different now than they were 10 years ago?
Well, first of all, we've developed a process where there's a lot more predictability. So where everything was chaos before, we've removed a lot of the chaos with a better process. We've transitioned from technicians that may have done the whole job themselves before to segmented repair process that's more of a production line style. We have technicians that did it the old way for many, many years that thought they would have a tough time with this that actually like it. So that's been one part of it, but then also the cultural change to get the true teamwork and everybody moving in the same direction. A lot of that's been accomplished through the process, through the coaching, but also through a team pay plan where they can all win together.
Now, while this transition was going on over the last number of years, and it continues today, you're still trying to get better and making improvements and whatnot, but while this transition was going on, even though there was frustration from your standpoint, like you said, from the outside, people thought, this is a leader in the industry. You had a number of people visiting your store to try to learn from you about what you were doing along the way. And that was one way you were able to, help other people along the journey, just like you learned from other stores and other classes. What prompted you to decide to put together these courses to try to articulate what you were doing here at Zara so that other people could learn from it?
Yeah, as you said, over the years, we have had a number of other shops in different areas that maybe have heard of what we've been doing, some of the successes that we've had, want to come and do a little field trip, basically, and come and check things out. So what I would see is they would spend, 4, 5, 6 hours here. We'd spend a lot of time together. They would look around, and they would leave maybe excited, but about what they didn't know. So I could see that actually could create some frustration, and it certainly created frustration for me to think that, they may have missed the most important part of what we were all about. Mm-hmm. So to see that we needed to bring some structure to that, the only way that I could see doing it was, to host these classes, allow people to come in and not only learn, the background and the kind of particulars of what we do, but then to see it in action and be able to talk to the people doing it. And that was something that we did not have the luxury of. The few times that we were able to, have our people talk to people at another shop that had been through a major transition, that was by far the most valuable time spent. So for us to be able to offer that was important.
For these classes, and you talked a little bit about being able to touch base with the people that are doing the work here, who actually teaches the classes?
Well, actually, I probably do the least amount of teaching because most of it is presenting what that person actually does. So we've got Kim, our customer care specialist. She does a portion of the class. A lot of it's done with our assistant general manager, Brady, who covers a lot of the different roles, and Cole, our production manager. But then when we get into repair planning or parts ordering procedures, whatever the area may be, we involve the whole team.
Now, at this point, there's 4 classes that have been developed, and they're each taught in one-day formats. We have repair planning, we have production management, we have moving to teams, and we have a communication and culture class. Are these classes that is there value in attending these classes piecemeal, or is there value in attending all of them? What would you recommend to people as far as considering these classes?
Well, we came up with the 4 different classes based on what we thought were the 4 key elements to our success. And, so while none of them are a prerequisite to the other, the only way somebody's going to get the full value would be to come to all 4. I'm excited for where we're at and what lies ahead. So while I know that there is fear in the unknown, if you take a leap of faith like this, it's well worth it. It's well worth it, and I would hate to think that someone would continue on in this industry or any other really miserable with what they're doing. It can be different.